Jordan Peterson, the man, the myth, the legend, the dude making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year on Patreon for fighting some pronouns. Now, we're going to be diving into this whole C-16 bill, but what I want you guys to do is read this full article. I'm going to link it down below. I can't break everything down here. This would be an extremely long video, and I'm short on time. But here are his claims, right? So the whole idea is basically what's going on now is they're effectively just adding transgender people to the lists of human rights in Ontario and Canada. So it's the same thing that they already have for so many other human groups of people, like African Americans and different things like that, and women and all that. So there's not really this crazy like shake up, like, oh my god, it's gonna be fucking, everything's gonna change and all this stuff. So here's what this article from Toronto states. This is what one of his quotes. We're gonna dive into this a little bit. He says, quote, "I think that some of the things that I say in my lectures now might be illegal. I think that they might even be sufficient for me to be brought before the Ontario Human Rights Commission under their amended hate speech laws." He goes on to say, "That's why I made the video. I said that we were in danger of placing the refusal to use certain kinds of language into the same category as Holocaust denial." He says, "If they find me, I won't pay it. If they put me in jail, I'll go on a hunger strike. I'm not doing this. And that's that. I'm not using the words that other people require me to use, especially if they're made up by radical left-wing ideologies." So he's one of this big propagator of this whole cultural Marxist Nazi conspiracy theory, which is what it is a Nazi conspiracy theory. Now, there has been some analysis done by groups like the Canadian Bar Association, which I think we can all agree is far more reputable than some dude making money off Patreon, and who's a professor, I believe, of psychology. Now, is it possible for him actually to end up in jail? So here's what one of these people, her name is Brenda Kosman. She says, here's what they say. This is what Toronto states. They say, according to Brenda Kosman, a professor of law at the University of Toronto, Peterson is, quote, fundamentally mischaracterizing Bill C-16. I don't know if he's misunderstanding it, but he's mischaracterizing it. Kosman says, it seems Peterson is trying to argue that the misuse of pronouns could constitute hate speech. I don't think there's any legal expert that would say that this would meet the threshold for hate speech in Canada, she says. They say, our courts have a very high threshold for what kind of comments actually constitutes hate speech, and the nature of speech would have to be much more extreme than simply pronoun misuse, according to Kosman. Quote, the misuse of pronouns is not equivalent to advocating genocide in any conceivable manner. If he advocated genocide against trans people, he would be in violation, but misusing pronouns is not what that provision of the code is about. So she actually had been at a debate with him, and she goes on to say, if he was found guilty by the Ontario Human Rights Tribunal, he would have been doing something illegal but not criminal. Kosman says, in other words, he wouldn't go to jail. Jail is only a punishment for committing a criminal offense, a violation of the criminal code. If Peterson was found to be in violation of the code, there are different possible remedies. He could be ordered to pay money. He could be ordered to correct the behavior. He could be ordered to go to training, etc. So no way, there's no way he could go to jail for the misuse of pronouns. And like I said, this is not all that crazy if you really think about it, right? You think of, generally speaking, any kind of discrimination that goes on, giving fines to private businesses for discriminating and different things like this. Now, I know what you're going to say. So the pronouns are not a form of discrimination. Well, just think about this. You're a teacher and a student comes up to you saying, hey, I would like to be called by this pronoun. Things are changing, okay? And understand that things are changing. Things are going to be vastly different in 50 to 60, even 30, 50, 60 years. And, you know, conservatives are not on the right side of history. They never are. And it's just, shit is changing whether you like it or not. And by the way, words are made up. There's nothing scientifically that has a kind of study of words or any of that type of stuff, okay? There's no actual thing. It's similar to names. So this whole thing is changing. The idea that he'd be thrown in jail for the misuse of pronouns is stupid. If he gets slapped with a fine, it's going to be very small. Really, what would happen is he'd be ordered to either to correct his behavior or to go to some kind of training to fix the problem, or the people who issue him the license will revoke his license to be a professor. So it's just a fundamental mischaracterization in order to get people, anti-SJWs, money. And again, like I said, the whole fuss over this is so stupid because, like I said, times are changing, words are made up as fuck, and just like I said, it's the same protection granted to these people that they have for every other group, which is the weirdest part about this. This is Canada we're talking about.